everybody? Welcome back. Welcome back to the College Town Podcast. I am Derek DeBurger. With me is Sam Roth.
How we doing, guys?
Uh, it's set. National championship is set. It's everyone's two favorite underdogs. The lowly seven-seeded Notre Dame Fighting Irish with 14 karat gold in their helmets,
A
and
lot more money.
the little engine that could, that is Ohio State.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah, well, they're the eighth seed.
Ah, whatever.
I mean, look, I will say, we talked about it last week a little bit. There were people who were very anti 12 team playoff that all off season were like, oh well, only four teams can win it anyway. These teams would not have been voted in if we were still a 14 playoff.
No.
Both of the teams would have missed because sure they're the seven and the eight seed,
Yeah,
but I think ranking wise they're like I think they're five and
six.
yeah five and
You just
I
eliminate. All you have to do is eliminate Boise State and Arizona State, and just move everybody up two.
I thought Ohio State was lower than that. I thought they were lower than the six, but basically they're out of the top four. They would not have made it in. And so according to all these people who are like, well, no, teams can't win it anyway. Outside of there's only four teams can win it every year. Already, this is disproving that.
Yeah.
But I mean, do you have a preference on who you want to win, Notre Dame or Ohio State?
Far as like preference go, I've been saying Ohio State, so just the validation of being correct would be Ohio State to win.
I kind of want both of them to lose if that's possible.
Eh,
Like I would. Here's the thing: I'd rather either of these teams win than an SEC team because the SEC, the cultists, they're insufferable. Um, but like I don't know, like Notre Dame fans are they're the trust fund babies of college football, and Ohio State fans are also a little annoying. I don't experience it fully because we're not in Ohio State country, but they're annoying.
yeah.
Yeah,
Eh,
nothing really to add about that. Just it's two annoying fan bases
yeah.
in unique ways. Each have their different way of being annoying. Uh, let's talk about the games themselves though. So for Ohio State, this is the closest game that they have played. They still kind of controlled it.
It's
It was close in the first half.
Ohio State.
Yeah.
It was a close game. It was a good game because
Yes.
I mean, you have to look at it. Texas was on the 1 yard line, and they decided to do a pitch play, right? And then it sets them back 5 yards. And then the next following play results in a touchdown the other way for Ohio State. Any other competent team in Steve Sarkisian doesn't do the pitch play there to lose 5 or 6 yards and just tries to run it up the middle 3 or 4 times. I'm bound to guess that they're going to get in because right there alone, in my opinion, is a 14-point swing of the game, which is the difference.
Yeah,
So
but I mean, it's similar to the Texas Clemson game. It's not the same exact thing, but Texas Clemson that ended up being 14 game. They were on like the 5 yard line, I think it was. When it was a 7 point game, they went for it, couldn't get it. Texas went down and scored. Was the Texas Clemson game ever close?
I can't recall that game exactly to speak, but I know for a fact for this one, if you're on the 1 yard line and they execute that play, it's a tied ball game at that point, and who knows what happens there.
I know.
Like I think the score line shows it was a closer game than what the score line says, is my opinion, and I think it was a very close game throughout. It
It was.
didn't get blown away until 2 or 3 minutes left in the game. That's all that was.
I know. But it felt like Ohio State to me. I watched most of it. I didn't watch all of it. I'll be honest. But it did feel like Ohio State was the better team throughout. Maybe
I mean, like it was a 7-0 ball game for a good bit of it. Every defense was holding their own for the most part. I don't think
I still
like
feel like Ohio State was the better team throughout.
I mean, yeah, probably. It's just a matter of like The difference was is that Ohio State was able to move the ball 50 yards down the field to Ohio State's 30 or 40, or Texas, my apologies. Ohio State was able to move it 60 or 70 yards on the field and wasn't able to finish. Whereas Texas was only able to move it only so far. And then at the end of the game, it was resulted in two massive plays where there was a pick that was thrown and Ewers fumbled the ball there. Basically just lost in the game in those two possessions right there. That's the difference in the game right there, was those two final crucial plays.
Do you think that maybe Steve Sarkisian didn't run it up the middle because he thought that they couldn't?
No, because they did it all with Blue the whole time. Like he had two touchdowns. They were clearly able to run the ball.
They ran it up the middle, Blue?
Yeah, I think he was trying to get fancy with it.
Or to the outside?
Up the middle. Like literally one of Blue's touchdowns was right up the middle. That's exactly what they did.
Hmm.
I think he just tried to get fancy with it. Like it's like you knew where the ball was gonna go. It's just a matter of like where. And I think he didn't want to do the same thing twice. I think he wanted to change it up. And I think that was an error. I think it was an oversight, overthought.
Offensive coaches can outcoach themselves sometimes. Like it's a very common thing that offensive coaches don't just do the simple thing that's like staring right at you. He, like you said, he tried to fancy it up when he didn't need to.
Right.
But I don't know.
I think,
I'm still saying that I watched that game. I thought Ohio State was the better team throughout. I understand that it was a close game,
yeah,
but I do think that that score is indicative of, yeah, I think Ohio State's better than Texas.
yeah, I would agree with that.
I know on the surface, I think that doesn't really sound like I'm saying anything. The score is indicative of Ohio State's better than Texas. Well, yeah, because Ohio State beat Texas. But I'm saying that like, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Not to
they
sound like
just
an
they
idiot.
the eye tests look better for Ohio State than Texas.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. I just want to make sure I didn't sound like a complete idiot.
Okay.
Notre Dame, Penn State.
I did not get a chance to watch this one.
I did watch that one. For a game that in many aspects was as terrible as it was a good game. And what I mean by that is there were times where Notre Dame's offense looked anemic, and Penn State, I'm sure you've seen the stat, didn't even complete a pass to a wide receiver all game long.
I saw that stat.
It mind blowing. Drew Aller played terrible in that game.
Really?
He played awful. Um, he had two interceptions called back because of penalties.
Hmm.
Um, I remember I wasn't upset with the one.
Were any of them like free plays? Like he knew he could just throw it up, and if there was a pick, he'd be okay?
No, I think it was there was a pass interference and like I think a defensive holding. I
Oh,
think
okay.
so. He got bailed out on both of those, and then the final offensive play for Penn State, or not the final one, because they try to do a hook and ladder thing. But basically the play that put Notre Dame in position to win the game with the field goal. Drew Aller made just a horrible interception. He was like scrambling to the right and then just shucks it in the middle of the field across his body to try and hit a receiver and just throws a bad pass and it gets picked off. And it's like, okay, well, I mean, I guess Notre Dame's going to the national championship. I like, I don't know. It's not a very inspiring game for Penn State's prospects next season because they're still going to have Aller. Sure, he could get better, but I don't know. I don't anticipate him getting that much better. And they're also losing Abdul Carter. I mean, Carter was an absolute monster in that game, and he was all over the field. He's gone. He's going to the draft.
It definitely does fit the stereotype for Penn State, which is they can't win the big one. It Because
Yeah,
if you at least look at their run, it's like, okay, they had SMU, cool. And then they had Boise State next, and it's like, not to discredit what Boise State did, but probably the weakest of the top four seeds.
yeah,
And so, and then they get matched up against a good Notre Dame team, and they can't find a way to win.
yeah. I mean, yeah, you said it perfectly. And like I saw, so James Franklin, his record against top 10 teams now is 4-20, and his record against top 5 teams is like 1 and something.
Mm,
It, that's the narrative, and it's like the longer this plays out, it's not a narrative anymore. It's just like, okay, yeah, you took
that's just the way it
trouble
is.
in
Yeah.
a game. And the problem is, I've brought this up earlier this season. He needs to modernize his own offensive scheme. I think James Franklin is a great coach, but he's an offensive guy who the last, I don't know how many years, the offense has been the problem of the team. That's typically not indicative of a coach that's on the up and up. Um, I just think he's stuck a little bit in the too much in the past.
Hmm.
Like, I think he's a great coach. I just think he needs to modernize the scheme a little bit, because then better quarterbacks will want to play if it's a more modern, fast paced, fun looking offense. And then if you have a better quarterback, that fixes a lot of things. Because I think they still could have won that game. Same exact scheme, same exact skill players, all that, if they just had a better quarterback.
Right.
So, but you're not going to get a better quarterback if you don't fix what you're doing internally as a coaching staff. But I mean, that's all I have to say about those games. Do you have anything else to add?
Nope.
I guess the only other thing that I had to add is that uh, before the Ohio State Texas game, Quinn Ewers, in so many words, said that he's going to the NFL draft, which is contrary to what a lot of people thought he was going to do. A
I
lot of
thought he was going to go to Notre Dame or Ohio State next year.
a lot of people expected him to put his name in the portal and go to Ohio State. That's not. I don't think that's off the board entirely, because
I,
I haven't. As far as this morning, We're recording this on a Monday. As far as this morning, I haven't seen him put his name in the portal or officially enter the draft. Um, but that's what he said.
it, yeah.
I
There's
mean, it's
quite a few quarterbacks that are like in interesting spots because it's like Carson Beck was an interesting one for a while. Uh, Jalen Milroe's another interesting one in the sense of like I feel like Alabama fans are kind of over him a little bit,
yeah,
which is interesting after the Michigan loss. And then now you got Ewers, which is like it's not that he's a bad quarterback, it's just they have in their eyes the Messiah incoming behind him. It's
yeah. I mean, honestly, I think the best thing for Texas would have been to have kept to to keep Ewers for one more year and then play Arch Manning that final year.
right.
That, in my opinion, that's the best thing that could have happened. But I think they were, like you said, really, really eager to get this football messiah out there on the field.
I mean, yeah, basically. I don't know what else you would call this kid.
He's the heir apparent.
Yeah, very much.
I mean, you brought him up, so let's talk about him. Carson
Sure.
Beck. That was a wow.
It makes a lot of sense if you think about it.
I I I mean, yes, it does. I think you were exactly right, because he's coming off that UCL injury. Uh, you know, that's going to take Tommy John surgery.
Right.
Fine. Recent history actually shows us that, like, when you get it when you get Tommy John surgery, you actually throw faster.
You could
Like,
come back better, especially with the way the surgery has taken place, not just for football players, but mainly baseball players.
yeah. Um,
Yeah, it's
they've really, you know, taken massive strides in the field of surgery, especially.
it used to be a career-ending surgery almost, where you got it and you were not the same. Now it's almost the exact opposite, like you said.
Yeah. And so he will be fine, but the turnaround time for that injury is like 4-ish months. And like the NFL season starts what, September?
Yeah, something like that. Well, I mean, like it really depends. So, like for example, uh, it depends on the level of throwing. So, like. I don't know what his timetable is for as far as like a quarterback is, but I know for a pitcher who gets Tommy John, the recovery time is like 9 to 10 months.
Well, so um, Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy had the same injury in the NFL in the NFC Championship game.
Mm,
So he had this injury in late January,
right.
and he started. I believe he might have started Week 1 last year.
Okay.
Uh,
So, and that would have been September. So we're talking 8 months.
I wanna double check that, but I know that he did. He came back pretty fast. So like he wasn't out for super long.
I mean,
He if Carson Beck did want to go into the draft, then he could um he could be ready to play. But the problem is how does that affect his draft status as an injured quarterback who already kind of had a down year?
yeah. I think he definitely like put his feelers out there and then probably got a return. Also, the other interesting thing is like if we really want to like dive into this with the Miami, it's like okay, Miami needs a quarterback. Quarterback situation's kind of dried up. He's getting offered what was it, 4 million?
That's the rumored number. Four
That
million to
is
go.
that's bigger than any base salary of a rookie quarterback that we can really think of right now.
Way too much money.
Also, the other thing to note is his girlfriend goes to Miami.
Yep. Hannah Cavender.
I don't know which Cavender it was, but I know it was one of them.
Hannah is the not as good one.
Noted.
I only know that it's Hannah Cavender because I saw it on ESPN like very, very recently,
Yeah, so
a day or two ago.
I mean, we kind of saw the same thing happen with AJ Storm going from Wisconsin to Kansas. It was rumored that he was following his girlfriend as well. So it's not to say that it definitely doesn't hurt the situation for him for choosing Miami.
Yeah.
So
I don't think he's going there for his girlfriend. I think he's going there for the $4 million.
I think that is a big. I just think it's a perk that his girl's already there.
I think I agree with you. What I mean, and this circles back to something I've been talking about for like a month at this point, maybe a month and a half. It's who is Miami to get a quarterback next year? Because especially after the bowl game, Emory Williams looked terrible. He threw below 40% completion percentage, 26 yards and an interception. He was awful in that game. Against the
Yeah.
defense is getting worse and worse as the season went on in Iowa State's defense. Um, and they couldn't get anyone. They swung and missed on a lot of guys. And the thing is, they did that last year too. They just, I mean, they won the lottery when Cam Ward fell in their lap. And so this year, I think there was probably a little bit of tampering going on.
I'm about to say, do you think they even picked up the bat and went out into the portal because they knew that this was going to be a possibility, a real strong possibility?
Yes,
Because last thing,
there were
because
reports that they offered a lot of money for John Mateer and Fernando Mendoza, and they missed on both of those guys.
okay,
Um, I think once they missed on them, and then they saw how bad Emory Williams looked in the bowl game, they're like, all right, let's go out and get one of these guys in the playoff.
there's also another rumor tamper of Boise State's former OC. What was his name?
I saw that story too. He
He
said that.
saw that Oregon was tampering with their guys after their bowl game. So, which as a Louisville fan who just lost Jamari Johnson and the fashion of which how quick that transfer happened, uh, I want to believe it.
Oh, I absolutely believe it. So I can tell you again as a Louisville fan, in basketball, we've done this in the past. And this is before the one-time transfer rule. This was when you could only transfer as a graduate student. We played someone as a mid-major. The best player on that mid-major um, kind of went off on us, and then Rick Pitino was like, "Hey, let's get that guy next year," and he was on the team. Uh, I believe it was Damian Lee,
That is a
but
great pickup.
it's a great pickup.
Too bad
Um,
he couldn't go to the tournament.
yeah, but No, I absolutely believe that that's happening. I believe that that's what Miami did with Carson Beck. Um, I read it was written by Jeff Borzello, um, for CBS Sports. I think it was a little bit of a hit piece on Carson Beck, but basically Georgia was they were done with Beck.
Yeah.
They thought that it to boil down the article, basically Carson Beck was not with the team according to this article, like in preparation for the playoff. He just kind of left the team and started like consulting doctors to see if he could get how severe his injury was. And when they all said the same thing, he was like, "Okay, I'm not playing." And then he, again, according to this article, he only talked to Gunnar Stockton like the day before their game, which is crazy. Only gave him like, "Hey man, you got this," the day before the game. And guess what? Gunnar Stockton did not got it. He did
Mm,
not got. So maybe he could have used a little bit of guidance from Carson Beck. I think as far as Miami goes in this, I think this is makes them better than if they had to play Emory Williams. I don't think it makes them anywhere near as good as they were this year. I think they're going to take a huge step back because I think Carson Beck is an above average college quarterback, and that's it. I think that's it.
yeah.
And Mario Cristobal really needs a quarterback to kind of help get him over the hump of like into the territory of a really good team. We've seen that. Cam Ward, Justin Herbert, that's it. Those are his only 10-win seasons. And so I don't think Carson Beck's that guy. But it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Miami's also losing a lot of skill position players, but they're Miami. They're getting people in the portal. Uh, One other quarterback news before we move on to basketball. Um, Syracuse's quarterback, Kyle McCord, after getting a waiver approved to have one final year of eligibility, everyone thought, "Oh my God, he's going back to Syracuse. Syracuse is going to be pretty good next year." Now he just hit the draft.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, I'm good." He's like, he probably got it's the same exact opposite as Carson Beck. He probably got good feedback and was like, "Oh, okay, I'm not going to play anymore. I'm just going to go in the draft." Where Carson Beck probably got bad feedback plus the injury.
Right. Or they got the same feedback and one had higher expectations and the other one is happy with the expectations that he's got.
That could be it too.
Because if Carson Beck got the feedback, you're a third, fourth rounder after being quoted as a first rounder coming into the year.
Some people saying the number one overall pick.
Right. I bet that's a hit to the ego. Whereas Kyle McCord coming off a year, coming into a season where you basically got kicked off of Ohio State's campus to now being like, hey, I'm a decent draft pick. Like I could be a reliable backup in the league.
I might be a day two guy.
Right. That's I think that's the conversations that happen because I don't think Kyle McCord's going in day one by any stretch of the imagination.
I don't think so either. I think he could potentially. I think he could play himself into that with
Right.
like all the senior bowls and everything that they do, and the combine pro days.
Right.
You see guys like play themselves into that.
You could test well. Yeah.
Yeah. But as of now, yeah, I think you're right. I think his ceiling looks like a day two guy.
Which is good for him after coming out of a situation where it was awful for him in Columbus. He was practically blamed for the 2023 season.
Yeah, which I talked about even during the season last year. I thought he played fine. I thought he very much was just made the scapegoat. I didn't think he was as good as he is, but I thought he played fine.
Right.
All right, let's talk about the fun sport. Let's
Okay,
talk
let's
about
do it.
let's talk about basketball.
All
Ugh.
right.
I mean, so where do we want to start? What
Well,
do we want? No, the number one team went down. The final undefeated Tennessee. They got absolutely dog walked at Florida.
they could not hit a shot. It was pretty bad to watch. It was brutal. Uh,
They only scored 43 points.
they just the faucets were out that game. They could not hit anything.
Yeah. And then they kind of barely snuck by a Texas team over the weekend who I'm not I'm out on Texas. I don't think they're that good.
Yeah. I think Texas is a tournament team, but
Potentially.
still,
Um, did you see Chaz Lanier got benched 11 seconds into the second half?
yes, I did see that. Rick Barnes came out and basically said that they basically drew up like a pin down for him and come off a screen, and he was supposed to take a shot, and he didn't like the shot, so he didn't take the shot. And Barnes sat him, quoting saying, "I don't pay you to not take that shot." He says, "I pay you to take that shot. If you're not going to do that, you can sit on the bench," which is a whole new facet of college sports now. To just hear a coach say, "I'm paying you to do this. You need to do it," is very interesting because it used to just be he didn't do what I told him to do, so I'm benching him. But no, it's this is your job. This is why I brought you here.
Yeah.
And I mean, I get it.
I'm
Completely understand.
I completely understand as well. I didn't actually watch Tennessee, Texas, so I don't know the play in question, but I am a little conflicted because at a certain point there has to be a trust between coach and player of like, sure, you draw up the play, but if the play is busted, that's not the player's fault for not taking a bad contested shot at that point. It's actually the player being really smart in not taking a shot potentially. And again, I didn't see that play.
Yeah, I don't think it was that situation. I think it was like it was it was the look that they were looking for. It just probably wasn't as perfect as it could have been, you know?
Yeah.
So,
In that situation, I'm on Rick Barnes' side.
right.
But other games, two teams that oh my.
Sorry.
Ooh, that was all right. Two teams that probably had the two best weeks of anyone are Louisville and Georgia. Not in that order. I think Georgia had the best week. But Louisville, all of a sudden, back on everyone's radar. Two really good wins. I know the everyone's like, oh, the ACC sucks, which let's be honest, as a whole, it does. But
Yeah,
Clemson and Pitt are two of the better teams in it, and they're not just two of the better teams; they're two good teams.
Louisville has beaten everyone in that B tier of the ACC so far this year, in my opinion. Between
Yeah,
Pittsburgh, Clemson, have we played SMU yet?
no,
So
and if we
SMU is to be determined, but those are two very good wins. If you want to include a Virginia win away, even though they are not the Virginia team that they once were,
not even close, but they did beat Carolina by double
that is
digits.
that is another one. North Carolina, yeah.
The thing about the Virginia game is, even though I do think it's like a it's like watching a shell of a Tony Bennett team. Like I watch that team and I'm like, what are they doing? They're not even hedging screens. Like what is this? But still, Ron Sanchez is not a bad coach. And to beat Virginia by 20 at Virginia, they're only the second team in the last, at that point, the last 63 home games that Virginia had played, which is spanning like what, 5 years at that point? They're only the second team to score 70 or more points on Virginia on their own home court. That's impressive. Louisville's playing really, really well right now. And then the Pitt win at Pitt, that was a physical game, which early in the season was Louisville's kryptonite. If you even got a little bit tough with them, they kind of folded. And that was a physical game. The refs were not really calling much. They were letting both teams play. And Louisville came out and won. They were the better team. They won on the road. Georgia. Georgia got two ranked wins. First against Kentucky, kind of handled them, beat them by 13. And then second against Oklahoma. Oklahoma's not ranked anymore, but they were ranked at the time. And it's still, perception's everything. So, I mean,
There was
both
a
teams, both of those games were double-digit wins. So Georgia, they had themselves a week.
it was an interesting situation because there's a lot of, I don't know, for lack of better words, pogo teams where it's like they won one and lost one, but there was like Kentucky lost to Georgia, right? But then they come
Mhm.
back and they beat Mississippi State.
Which I think is a really good.
Right, it's a good win. But then Georgia's like, what are you doing losing to Georgia? Tennessee loses to Florida. No disrespect to Florida. No disrespect to Tennessee. Florida's a good team, right? But to lose by 30 is a lot. But then they come back and they beat a Texas team, right?
Yeah,
What was the other one? West Virginia earlier beat Kansas. Then they get swamped by Arizona.
that
So
was
it's,
actually, funnily enough, that was West Virginia's second time playing Arizona this season. First time as a conference game
huh.
because they met in the Battle for Atlantis.
Yeah.
Stupid. Conferences are stupid. It's gotten out of.
Uh, Shout out to Villanova for getting a win over UConn in what was expected to be a very high offensive game. Turned out to be a very much below 70 scoring game.
Yeah,
68 to 66, I believe, something like that.
that
Yeah.
is the yes. All right, yeah. Let's talk about UConn and Villanova. Um, let's talk about Villanova first. I was very much on the train of I don't care what happens this year. Fire Kyle Neptune, and they're playing great basketball right now. Like genuinely, they're playing really good basketball right now.
Really good? I don't know about that. I think they're playing good. I don't think it's like really good.
They're playing some good basketball right
I don't know if they're good enough to be a tournament team yet. I'm
now. I don't
still I'm still on the fence about it.
I don't either. And if they don't make the tournament, you have to fire him because Eric Dixon is playing out of his mind.
He's an All-American.
And Wooga Poplar, I look, I've got a love affair with this man's game. I love the way Wooga Poplar plays basketball. I love it. And if they don't make the tournament again, that'll be year after year after year of Kyle Neptune just failing to meet expectations with a ton of talent on his teams. As bad as these Villanova teams have been, they have been loaded with talent since he's been there. And he's just not. If they don't make the tournament this year, he's just not doing anything with it. And even if they do squeak in the tournament with like a 21-10 record in the regular season, I don't know. It still feels like a little bit of a letdown. Like
Yeah.
at that point, I might be like, okay, give him a fourth year because they made the tournament. He's clearly building some momentum. I still think it's underachieving considering the talent that they had, but I don't know. They're playing better.
Yeah.
But and UConn. Oh me, oh my UConn. Are they good or are they not good? What do you think?
Good as in the last 2 years good? No, not by a long shot. Uh, Good as in like a top 20 team? Yes. What is good? You know what I mean?
I think if they played in even a little bit of a tougher conference, I think they might be hovering in and out of the top 25 all year. But the
I mean,
fact
I
that
mean,
they play the Big East, which is like it's pretty good at the top, but there's some real bad teams in the Big East.
like,
Uh, DePaul's not good. They're better, but they're not good. Seton Hall, I love Shaheen Holloway. Seton Hall sucks. I think Creighton sucks.
yeah, Creighton's bad this year. Uh, yeah, I still think the Big East is a three-team tournament team. Marquette, St. John's, and UConn.
Um,
Xavier's not getting in.
no, they're definitely not getting in.
Seton Hall's not getting in. Villanova, I don't think's in. Creighton's not in.
Nope.
I think it's three teams.
Do you think Georgetown could sneak in there?
No,
You don't think so?
I don't think they're that great.
I think that they're a solid team. That's my opinion. I like Ed Cooley as a coach. I think he's really good. Um, I think they have taken a step further than I thought they would this year. Like I thought I thought that Georgetown, they're currently sitting at 12-4. I thought Georgetown was going to have like a 500 record this year. I thought that that's the step forward that they were going to take. They are much, much better than that. They could be looking at like 19-20 wins. I think 19-20 wins in the Big East doesn't get you in the tournament. I think you're right about that. But if they beat, I like I said before, Creighton's not good this year. Still, Georgetown beat Creighton by 30. I mean, they just beat them up and down, wire to wire in that game. I think you have, even though I don't think Creighton's good, they're still well coached. Greg McDermott's a good coach. To beat them by 30, you got to be a good team. I think Georgetown's pretty good. Are they good enough to make the tournament? We'll see. But
Who
what do you
is
think?
one team for you right now that you would want to highlight that you're like, they look good?
One team that looks good that I want to highlight?
Yeah,
Ooh, I don't know. It's on the spot a little bit.
apologies.
I mean, off the top of my head, I think Wisconsin is playing pretty well right now and not getting a ton of credit just because they went on a little bit of a losing streak earlier this year.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think Wisconsin's playing well. I think Illinois has a a boatload of talent this year, and Underwood is a great coach. I'm very high on Illinois. I know they just lost by 10 to USC.
Yeah, it wasn't a great loss.
Is at home too, so that's a bad
Yeah.
loss. But I don't know. I'm still high on Illinois. Yeah, I'm still pretty high on Illinois.
I personally really like Michigan.
A lot of people do.
They are running a 2 7-footer pick and roll action is their most commonly used.
It's old school, baby.
No, Danny Wolf is a point forward. That's what he is. He has handles and brings the ball up the court.
Yeah,
It
but
is kind of ridiculous.
there's two 7-footers. It's old school.
Is that old school? Primary ball handler is a 7-footer, getting a screen and then pick and rolling off of that?
I mean, Scottie Pippen ran the point in Chicago sometimes.
I
Yeah.
mean, he was like 6'8", but still, it's like Danny Wolf was it's kind of crazy because he has the ability to make certain passes that guards normally don't because of his size. He's throwing the ball over the top of his head to Golden, who's their center from FAU, and there's nothing that can be done about it because how do you stop those passing lanes?
I mean, yeah. There's not really much you can do.
It's very
Especially,
impressive.
I mean, yeah. No, a lot of people are very, very high on Michigan. I think they're good. Uh, again, I was asked that question a little bit on the spot.
Apologies.
No, it's fine. But no, I think Michigan is good. It's interesting of all the high profile teams that had to start from scratch this year and just like completely rebuilding the portal. A lot of them are they're a lot of them have a pretty high hit rate so far.
Yeah,
Kentucky, really good. I'll
yep, good team.
credit what credit's due. Much better than I thought they were going to be. Uh, Michigan, they only have, I believe, 3 losses at this point. Louisville's starting to look really good. Um, Utah State, Utah State's pretty freaking good.
Utah State is pretty freaking good.
I mean, who else had to rebuild from scratch? West Virginia,
Yep.
I think they're good. Um, probably the worst one is Arkansas. So talk about
Jeez. It's something right now.
there. Oh God. Okay. So here's the stat for you. They're 0-3 in the SEC. Do you know the last time John Calipari started off 0-3 in conference play as a head coach?
94.
1988-89. When he was at UMass, that was his first season as a head coach. He was, I believe, 27 years old. It's been a long time. That's pre Marcus Camby that
Jeez.
Calipari started off 0-3. And it I mean it looks ugly. Here's the thing. It looks the same as Kentucky has in recent years. but it's Kentucky, so people were like, "Well, yeah, but they're still good." I mean, Calipari's he's lost it. He lost it like 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, because it's 2025. I
Yeah.
think as soon as they lost to, I believe it was Kansas State in the second round, not the Jerome Tang loss, but I think they lost to him in the second round. Prior to that, uh, as soon as that loss happened, it was over. It was over for Calipari. He's only gotten one tournament win since then, and then of course they turned around and lost to Kansas State again. So I mean, they just get upset in the first round of the tournament. They have just glaring issues in the regular season that just don't get fixed in the throughout the entire course of the year, and then that's what comes back to bite them in the tournament. And it's just everyone's been saying it for years now. He has such an outdated offense. The dribble drive is an outdated scheme, and it's surprise, surprise, it's not working at Arkansas right now. And I don't think that he has. I don't think that he has the hubris to change his philosophy to try and save the season. Because talent wise, I mean, you can admit, right? Talent wise, Arkansas is pretty good.
Dero, Flan, Big Z. Who else do they have?
DJ Wagner, John L. Davis. Um,
Yeah, they got some talent.
yeah, they've got what's his name? Trayvon Brazil.
Yeah, they got some talent.
They got some talent. They got Carter Knox.
Yeah,
I mean, playing, you know, Boogie Flames. He's probably going to be a lottery pick. I would
yeah.
imagine.
That's about it though on that team.
Yeah, but that's talent. That's good talent.
I'm not saying it's not.
It's good talent and really good athleticism. And they're not good. They're just not good.
Yeah,
I don't know. Oh, I mean, they might miss the tournament.
they could. I think it's a real possibility for them.
I think at this moment in time, I think they're on the outside looking in. Because, like, if you start off 0-3, what's the hope that you're going to fix it? Like, what's the hope that you're going to.
To be fair to them, if there was a caveat to it, is that they have played arguably uh three out of the top five teams in the SEC so far. So they haven't hit that back end of the SEC because they
I mean,
played Florida, Mississippi, and Tennessee. And the other top teams are Kentucky and Auburn. Oh, and Bama. So they played three out of the six.
I'm not that high on Ole Miss. I
I think
just,
Ole Miss is a good team.
I don't know. I just, something about Ole Miss. They play with their food too much. But, I mean, you're right. Tennessee and Florida, those are, you lose to them, that's understandable. But, like, I think you expect them to be more competitive than they are. And I think that's what's so concerning. They've got
I th
LSU next,
I think
and
that'd
then
be a good test. LSU and Missouri, if they those are games that they should find ways to hopefully win.
but even if they go like if they split those, if they win at LSU, lose at Missouri, how do you
It's
feel?
not great.
No, if they uh, lose at LSU but win at Missouri, do you feel the same way or do you feel a little better?
It's just weird because it's like LSU's probably not a tournament team. It's probably them and like South Carolina that are and Vanderbilt on the outside looking in, right? Everyone else is pretty much a tournament team, more or less.
Maybe we'll see.
More or less.
I think they're going to shove a bunch of teams that don't need to be in the tournament in there, but yes, I know what you're saying.
So it's like, especially away, it's just going to be quad one opportunity after quad one opportunity. It's just they need to find a way to get those wins.
Yeah, I just at this point I have no faith in John Calipari to do it.
I think it's understandable.
Yeah, Have you seen Arkansas's home court though? They have a new home court this season.
No, I've not turned on Arkansas basketball this year.
It is. There's a part of me that loves their home court, and there's a part of me um, that still has waking nightmares about it. You should you should look up their home court right now. It's it's a very unique home court. In the meantime, I'm going to go through some other games that were played. Drake and Bradley played each other. That was like the marquee matchup of the mid majors. Drake won after losing two straight. Uh, you will get to UCLA. Alabama beat Texas A&M in a really, I mean, surprise, surprise, up and down game. UC Irvine and UC San Diego played each other. UC Irvine beat UC San Diego on their home court, snapping the longest losing streak. I don't quote me on this. I heard this from Field of 68. The longest losing streak uh, between two individual teams in the country. And so UC Irvine, I mean, UC Irvine looks pretty good.
Are
They
you
That game was a horribly boring game because both teams have really, really good defenses. But it's a good win for UC Irvine.
are you talking about the Slobber Hog logo? Is
Yeah,
what they call it?
yeah. It's kind of cursed, isn't it?
It it looks like if I just road killed a hog.
It's I.
Like
It's the tongue and the nails that get me.
it's the
The
tongue, the nails, and like the fang. Like three fangs coming up this way.
Again, I love it and hate it at the same time. All right,
It looks
let's.
yeah, okay.
I mean, they can't see it, so.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Auburn.
Okay.
Um, was blowing out Texas earlier in the week, and then Texas kind of closed that gap late. But it's not indicative of how uh, easily Auburn was winning that game. And then they went to South Carolina, struggled a little bit, barely won. Lamont Paris is a good coach. Probably the biggest reason that they barely won is that in the second half, Janai Broom got hurt,
He did.
hurt his
He
ankle, had to leave the game, did not come back.
To be fair, watched that game. Actually watched turned it on in the second half, right? Like 18 minutes left in the game. He hurt his ankle about 10:45 left.
I think it was 13 minutes left.
It was like 10:45 left, somewhere around there. It was like 12-ish. It was somewhere around there, right?
I think it was 13.
It was somewhere around there because I was watching the game and yeah, he did not put an ounce of weight on it, which I was like, oh crap. Like there goes the best player in the nation down for the year.
Yeah.
So to hear it was a sprained ankle,
I mean, honestly, miraculous.
honestly, yeah, what a way to
Yeah,
avoid it. Yeah, I don't know what the words are.
it's miraculous, is what it is. Like
Yeah, they dodged a bullet.
he is out indefinitely. Auburn has announced they play 2 games this week, and then they actually don't play any games next week. They've already confirmed that he's going to be out this entire week. And then their first game back after their week of no games is Tennessee.
I think he's probably going to try and be ready for the Tennessee game if he's able to. But I mean, a sprained ankle, it's
Really bad sprained ankle.
I mean, 2 weeks is not a horrible timetable for it.
Yeah, but they did call it a severe sprain day.
Yeah,
It's not. I rolled his ankle. That it's bad.
yeah. We'll
So
see. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried. They're at least going to make it to where even if he can't go, they want to make sure Tennessee has to prep for him.
yeah,
So,
I think you're right. Are they? let's say, I don't know, this isn't happening, but like let's say he has a misstep in his rehab and is out for the year. How how significantly does that impact your view of Auburn?
Oh gosh.
Because they're ranked number one in the country right now in the AP poll. They're we have not done our poll yet, but they're probably going to be ranked number one on our poll. Um,
Yeah, I rank them number one right now. I would probably put them, they go from like being the one seed to being like, I could see them falling to like a two or three.
without Janai Broom,
Yeah,
I think without in this hypothetical where he's out for the year,
yeah,
I think they might fall to like a four seed.
no.
I
They're very good everywhere without him. It's just he is exceptional.
do you know he has like a 25% assist ratio or percentage right now
No,
and an 8% turnover percentage?
that is very good.
You want to talk about a big plan point forward? Janai Broom he is he is the point guard of that team.
He's the orchestrator.
Yep, he's the straw that stirs the drink.
Mm.
Yeah, we're gonna. I mean, we have both of the Auburn games this upcoming week in our pick'em, so we'll see how we really feel about it. The other team that we need to talk about, that would be UCLA. Specifically, we gotta talk about Mick Cronin.
What did Mick Cronin do this time?
I mean, he's going crazy, right? Like he's going insane.
Uh,
It's a little bit on character, on brand, but like,
is yeah. He, he's a little crazy, man.
yeah, he is. So okay, they got blown out by Michigan, and then in the press conference, he called his players soft and delusional. He claimed that he is the toughest person on the team. Kind of, kind of talked about how much he hated his assistant coaches, which is a weird one to me. Um, it was weird. And then Friday against Maryland, they were getting blown out, and then he told people after the game, but he got intentionally ejected against Maryland because he didn't like the officiating. And then after the game, he said that the Big Ten refs are biased against UCLA, USC, Oregon, and Washington because they're the newcomers and they don't like them. Um, I mean, it's just, ooh, it's like, how much of this can one fan base take?
I want to be beneficial to him in hopes that this is like a motivation tactic.
He does come from the
Tough
team
love
Rick
aspect.
Rick
So,
Pitino does. He was an assistant under Rick Pitino.
so you get pissed off, you let them know how unhappy it is. They need to fix it because what they're doing is not adequate enough. One can hope this works. Uh,
It kind of worked last year when Rick Pitino did it. He
so
called out each player by name.
yeah. We'll see if it does because they're not a bad team,
No, I
really.
like talent.
So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I like their talent quite a bit. I think they are a good team. I think Mick Cronin, as you know, as big a Napoleon complex as he has, he's a really, really good coach. His style is boring, but he's a great coach.
yeah.
And like, I don't know. There was also it was brought up by some others. You know, the wildfires going on in California right now. His house is like not in the fire, but it's like close enough to
It's in zone two.
yeah. At any moment, he and his family could be forced to evacuate.
Yeah, he's in zone two.
That is something that could be stressing him out. But like, I don't know. I mean, this is a lot. There's a lot right now from Mick Cronin.
Yeah.
We'll see if they can turn around. But it's two bad losses. to like not to bad teams, but just wow losses. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Quick mention of Pat Kelsey, just because I forgot to mention it. We were bringing up Louisville's a good week. He is now, as Louisville's head coach, 12-5, and Kenny Payne in the 2 seasons before him was a combined 12-52.
Yep.
So, took him 17 games to do what it took Kenny Payne 64 games to do. Who? I mean, you better get on the Titanic.
Mm-hmm.
You better get on the Titanic if you wanna be part of it. Yeah, because we're taking notes of people who are getting off the Titanic, and we're not letting you on.
Jeez.
Oh, all right. So you want to talk about what do you want to talk about next? You want to talk about SMU and
Sure, we can talk about SMU. SMU's women's basketball program was leading against Pitt 46-14 with 1 minute and a half left in the first half. They proceed to lose to Pitt by a score of 72-59. For those of you who are don't want to do math, they got outscored 58-13 in the second half.
yeah, SMU was up by 32 points, which is this
Yeah,
makes the largest comeback in women's college basketball history.
which is insane.
Do you know what SMU shot from the field
No
in this
idea.
7%?
What?
They shot 7%.
Jeez.
I mean, just insane. It's not the biggest comeback ever. LSU had a 36-point comeback in men's um, against Kentucky when Rick Pitino was the coach.
Jeez.
So, to my knowledge, that is the biggest comeback in D1 basketball. But I mean, God, ooh,
That's a lot of points.
that's I mean, and like at that point too, you see it coming. Like this isn't something that just like sneaks up on you. You see this coming
No.
long, long time. You like if you're SMU's coach, you're calling timeouts with like 7 minutes left in the third quarter. You're like, come on, guys, let's get our heads in the game. It's not over yet. Like hit a
Right.
shot, take take it to the rim, draw a foul, get some easy points, do something, get in their heads, hard foul them if you have to. Like like get them out of their rhythm, their mojo. I, whew, I mean that's one of those things where it's like whenever there's a comeback, it's a spectrum of was it more of a team that came back or was it more of a team that blew their lead? This
Yes.
feels like SMU blown.
I don't know, because like you held a team to 14 points with a minute and a half left in the first half. It
Mm-hmm.
seems like it's on par. Like maybe you give up 20, maybe 25 second half. By then you still win the game. You don't have to score.
You give up 25, you still win the game by 7.
Right. So
That's
I think it's a little bit of both. One team started to hit shots, the other one started to miss.
I just I don't know. I think that's coaching malpractice. I do like you to shoot 7% from the field. That's not just starting to miss. That's like that's you're getting locked down defensively. That's you can't do anything on offense because the other team is just shutting you down. Ugh, it's horrible, horrible coaching. Um, you want to talk about the NIL agent stuff?
Sure. So an NIL agent was basically on a podcast. His name's Noah Reisenfeld. He claims pretty much every NIL deal, agency charges about 20% compared to NFL standard or NBA standard of 3 to 5%. When asked about why so much, obviously, he said if you compare a $10 million NFL deal to a $1 million deal in college, an agent makes 300K in the NFL and 200K in college. Uh, I personally think this is just predatory practice, is what I think.
That's exactly what it is. The
That is insane. 20% commission on a deal?
the standards for being an agent for a college athlete are significantly lower than they are for being an agent for a professional athlete.
It is literally there's no regulations to this to be set. The standard to become an agent is so little. This feels like almost anybody can do it.
Yeah.
And the
To
amount
be
that they're charging these kids because they don't know any better is insane.
to be an agent in the NBA and the NFL, you have to have a law degree or 8 years of negotiating deals in some capacity. And so, like, there are actual hurdles you have to go through. You have to actually know what you're doing to do it, and also, the collective bargaining. The players have power to the point where, like, or at least the players recognize their power in the professional leagues, to where the agents are only getting 3 to 5%. And college, like, you know, it's so new, and there's the NCAA has just completely fumbled every aspect of legislation on this, that there's just no rules. Anyone can do it. You don't have to have a law degree. You don't have to have any experience, really. You can kind of just roll up and be an agent. That's it. And also the whole, I mean, of course, Noah Rosenfeld, this moron, is like justifying it. He's like, well,
I'm making less money on the deal. Well, no, duh. It's $1,000,000 deal to a $10 million deal.
yeah, it's like, okay, but Carson Beck just signed a $4 million deal.
Could you imagine getting
And
750K off of a deal for 4 million?
Dylan Mensa signed a an $8 million deal over 2 years.
Jeez.
It's like 1.5 million.
Yeah.
I mean, they're these agents just ripping people off. It's crazy, crazy, and the NCAA is not going to do a thing about it. What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. All right. You want to do the pickums, or you want to talk about Maryland and Notre Dame?
Yeah, Maryland commits to the revenue sharing and they commit all of it. They've committed 20.5 million. As far as I know, it's the first school to fully commit to the full amount of money available for them for their student athletes. So,
I mean, every school is going to that. Like every high major school, every power conference school, they're going to, because they have to compete.
so 20.5 million is going to go to student athletes, which is cool. Also, what's interesting is that the way that the playoffs is set up, for each win you get in each round, you receive money for I'm sorry, I'm moving on to the next story. This is about Notre Dame and their the money that they are receiving for winning their games. So because of the college football playoff, you receive a certain amount of allocated money for each round that you win within the college football playoff. Notre Dame so far has earned $20 million so far in payouts for reaching the national championship. However, each conference earns 20 million, right?
Yeah,
Because Notre Dame is independent, they get to keep every single cent for themselves rather than disperse it out among the other teams in their conference.
yep,
So, easily put, Marcus Freeman has basically made back his salary already to Notre Dame.
yeah. Or if you want to look at this another way, Notre Dame can now afford to do revenue sharing for an entire year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, speaking of, I looked it up because I remember we did the story. We covered it. I'm sorry. We covered it when the judge blocked the House settlement. And I was like, the January was the deadline. I don't remember this. Apparently, they reworked the deal, so it did get approved. So the House settlement is an official thing now. Colorado is the latest power conference school to agree to the full 20.5 million amount. So I think what's going to happen is, I think all the power conference teams are going to just get in line, and then I think everyone, just to be competitive, just literally just to be competitive, everyone's going to have to commit to the most they possibly can. Unless, unless like your school is just like the cheapest school imaginable. At that point, it's like, okay, kiss athletic success goodbye because you're never going to achieve it. But yeah, that's all I wanted to add about that.
I gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, good for Notre Dame, I guess.
Yeah.
They
I
really needed.
mean, they get to keep all the dough.
Yeah, if there's anyone,
Whereas now, for example, because Ohio State made it the exact same path as Notre Dame, Purdue gets 1.2 million. So, hey, good for Purdue.
good for Purdue, and they're probably going to put that towards some new computers in the school. All right, you want to do the pickums?
Now, let's do it.
We got a whole lot of basketball pickums, and then we've got the national championship in football, which is like a week and a half after the games are played, which is annoying, but it's fine. Okay, so let's start off Tuesday. Pretty good slate on Tuesday. We're going to start off with Mississippi State versus Auburn. I've been getting right into it. How are they going to do without Janai Broom?
It's a tough question. They did find a way to win without him against South Carolina. Mississippi State, though, is a different beast than South Carolina, in my opinion. Even though this is at Auburn, so I'm gonna go Auburn, but I think Mississippi State could pull off the upset.
I agree they could do it. I'm still going to take Auburn in this one. I just think at home, Bruce Pearl, a bad person, but he's a good coach. I think they're going to have enough. They're going to have what it takes to get done. Next up, we have Ole Miss versus Alabama. I'm going to take Alabama.
I'm right there with you.
Not a believer in Ole Miss. Really not. Next up, we have Texas A&M versus Kentucky. This is going to be just like Texas A&M Alabama. This is going to be back and forth, up and down.
Both two really talented teams. I'm gonna lean towards A&M just because the metrics do like them a little bit more. But because it's at home for Kentucky, I could definitely see the Wildcats pulling this one out.
Yeah, I'm going to take Kentucky in this one. Um, don't want them to win, but I think they will.
Mhm.
Uh, Next up, we have Illinois versus Indiana. Indiana was playing really, really well, won 8 out of 9 games, and then they got absolutely destroyed by
Yeah.
Illinois. I mean, just destroyed. Lost by like 30 points, 25 maybe. It was really bad. And then, of course, we talked about Illinois' bad loss to USC. I'm going to take Illinois to be the team that bounces back. Even though it's at Assembly Hall, I think it's going to be a really good environment. I still think Illinois is going to win.
I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna pick Illinois on this one.
Yep. I think play style does not favor Indiana. Next up, we have it's a mid major, but it's a fun one. And it doesn't seem like it on the surface, but St. Louis versus VCU.
St. Louis playing good ball right now.
St. Louis is the lone undefeated team in the A10.
Yep.
VCU, I believe, is in second place, if I'm not mistaken.
Somewhere around there, yep.
Yeah. So this is a very important game seating wise. God,
I'm
Josh,
going I'm going VCU.
I'm going to take St. Louis.
Mm,
I think VCU is a solid team. I think if the A10 got a little more respect, I think they would be a bubble team. Um, but I don't know. I think I'm going to take St. Louis. I just think Josh Hurt's a good coach. All right, next up we have Baylor versus Arizona. Uh, both teams have more losses than they wanted at this point. Arizona has won, I believe. Um, I believe they've won what
they're like
five?
11.
They're 10-5 right now. I believe. I think they've won
They
5 in a row.
are. Where is Arizona? They are 10-5.
Yep, I believe they've won 5 in a row. Arizona's playing good ball right now. I'm gonna take Arizona.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, actually, correct, correcting myself. Arizona has won 6 games in a row. So make it 7. Next up, we're moving to Wednesday night. We got Kansas versus Iowa State. My God, this is a good game.
Why pick against Iowa State? I think they're one of the best teams in the nation right now.
why pick against Iowa State at home? It's the Hilton Magic. They don't lose.
Hmm.
They can't lose. Give me Iowa State. Next up, we have Penn State versus Michigan State. Uh, you know what?
Michigan State's playing very good ball. Give me Michigan State.
Oh, I meant to take this one off. Oh well, I'm going to take Michigan State. All right, next game up, we have Georgia versus Tennessee. Georgia had a great week. Tennessee, not as good. They dropped from number one to whatever they're ranked now. So, who you got?
But still give me Tennessee on this one. I just think their talent wise is just far superior.
It is at Rocky Top. Give me Tennessee. I think Chaz Linear will probably play in this game. Yeah, so I think the Volunteers will win. Next up, we have West Virginia versus Houston. West Virginia is good. I do like this West Virginia team, but I think Houston is very good. I think they have one of the two best coaches in the sport in Kelvin Sampson.
Hmm.
Give me,
I'm going with Houston.
yeah, give me five slamma jamma. All right, next up we have Texas versus Oklahoma. Two teams kind of reeling right now. Both of them really need a win. So rivalry game is at Oklahoma. Who you got?
I'm leaning towards Oklahoma in this one just because it's at home.
Me too. I think I'm with you.
I think these teams are both very comparable.
I think you're right. I think you're right. Next up, another mid-major that doesn't seem super interesting, but is very impactful on the Conference USA race. We got UTEP versus Liberty.
Oh,
I,
Liberty. It's gotta be
I'm gonna
Liberty.
I'm gonna take UTEP.
UTEP isn't even the next best team, I don't think.
They were, but they lost.
I think it's Western Kentucky.
I think Western Kentucky has some losses on them. However, I'm gonna take UTEP. UTEP forces a ton of turnovers. They are number one in the country in turnover rate. I think that's a little inflated because they don't play super great competition, but they
Yeah.
are at that level phenomenal at forcing turnovers. And they play a modern, NBA style, shoot a bunch of threes, take shots at the rim.
Yeah.
I'm
UTEP right now, in my opinion, as far as Conference USA goes, is like fourth or fifth. I would definitely say they're solidly behind Liberty, Western Kentucky, and Louisiana Tech.
all right. Next up, we have Indiana versus Ohio State to start off the Friday slate of games. I'll just say it. I'm going to take Indiana.
Really?
Yeah, I don't really love this Ohio State.
I gotta go Ohio State.
I mean, it's at Ohio State. I don't love them. We've got Iowa versus UCLA. This one's going to be at UCLA. Good week for Iowa. Terrible week for UCLA. Who you got?
I'm hopefully the good week gets the it gets better for UCLA. Give me UCLA. I still think they're a good team.
I'm going to take UCLA as well because I think they've got an easy opponent early in the week, I believe on Monday uh, or whenever they play next. So I think they're going to bounce back. I think that's going to give them some confidence. I think we're going to win that one. Next up, we have Boise State versus New Mexico. New Mexico is 14-3 all of a sudden. Kind of snuck up on people, but they have a good record. Boise State is also rounding into form a little bit. They did lose to Utah State, but they are playing much better than they were at the beginning of the year. I'm going to take New Mexico. It's at the pit.
Same here. I'm going New Mexico.
It's at the pit. That's all I need to know.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next up, we have Alabama versus Kentucky. It's at Kentucky.
Alabama at Kentucky.
I mean, this game. Ooh, I mean, there's gonna be no defense played. I think this game is gonna be like that Kentucky Florida game on steroids.
It's gonna be like 90-90.
You don't think it's gonna be 100 to 103?
I mean, it could. It very well could possibly be. Uh, if the over under is not at least 180, hit the over on this one, folks. Uh, I'm
I'm
gonna
taking.
go. I'm gonna go Kentucky because it's at home.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a good environment, but I'll give me Alabama just cause.
All right.
Next up, we have Clemson Pitt. Two teams. Pitt had a bad week, but I still think they're a solid team. Clemson also a solid team. I'm going to take Pitt because it's at Pitt.
Yep. Give me Pitt.
I think Clemson's not great away from home. They're a weird Jekyll and Hyde. They're incredible at Little John, very bad away from it. Next up, we have Auburn versus Georgia. It's at Georgia. It's another little test for Auburn.
It is a test. I'm still gonna go Auburn. Until I can see someone fault them, I'm going Auburn.
I'm also taking Auburn. I think they're gonna, if they can get Janai Broome back for Tennessee, I think they're just gonna barely escape that window unscathed. So I'm gonna take Auburn in that one. Next up, we have Purdue versus Oregon. It's an interesting one.
Give me Oregon in this one because it's at Oregon.
Give me Purdue. I'm not a big believer in Oregon. I think they're fine. I think they're a tournament team, but yeah, give me Purdue. Next up, we have Iowa State versus West Virginia. I think that's going to be a good West Virginia crowd, probably, but I think it's going to be a tough week for West Virginia. So give me Iowa State.
I like the way you think. Give me Iowa State.
Next up, we have Ole Miss versus Mississippi State.
Ooh,
I'm taking Mississippi State.
I'll go Ole Miss just for fun.
All right. Next up, starting the Sunday slate, we've got Illinois versus Michigan State. That's a good game.
That is a good game.
Very good game.
I'm going to go Michigan State just because it's in East Lansing.
I'm doing the same thing. We're not really picking against each other that much.
We like the same picks.
Yeah, give me Michigan State.
Can't
Uh,
believe you're upset when I agree with you on the pick'ems.
it's like it happens without conflict. Uh, Next up we have Nebraska versus Maryland. This is our last basketball pick'em of this week. I don't know. Give me
Um,
Nebraska. I don't know why.
That's gotta be Maryland, right?
I think you're right, and I think my head says Maryland. But I don't know. I feel like picking Nebraska.
You gotta just be different, huh?
Yeah. All right. Final pick'em, game of the week, if you will. Iowa State, Notre Dame, national championship, first 12 team champion. That didn't come out great, but you know what I meant. Who you got?
The Buckeyes.
I also have Ohio State. I have Ohio State. All right. That's our show. Those were our pick'ems. Hope you liked it. Hope you stuck around this far. And if you did, feel free to like and subscribe if you're not already. But let's be honest, if you're this far, you've already liked and subscribed. But all right. We'll see you in the next one.